After Washington beats Michigan Saturday night, text me and let me know what you think the environment was and where it stands next to some of the great places you've been.
I'm going to use the finger to text that I wear my national championship ring on from last year. Sometimes it gets a little heavy. If there's any typos, just please understand.
All right, little dog talk with Brock, and let's be honest. I did not perform well last week. I mean, I got to be transparent with you. I hadn't written my notes down. I didn't have great structure. Frankly, I was undisciplined because what I learned, what I think, and what I know. I mean, that's the formation, the play, and the execution. And I just didn't do it well. I scrambled. I didn't have my notes in front of me. Damon joined us last week. I was just kind of a mess. I learned that I was undisciplined. And really, the last couple weeks with these Huskies, I hope you like the vintage gear. There's more of it underneath. We'll take that off when our guest comes. I learned that the Huskies, unfortunately, in their last couple games were like me last week, undisciplined. This is a 3-2 football team that very easily could be a 5-0 football team. And I know coulda, shoulda, woulda. That's just not sports. That's not football in particular, but it is just the reality if you simply look at the last two losses. This is not the Seahawks going to Detroit and get mollywopped physically. In fact, you did most of that to your opponent Rutgers in Piscataway on that Friday night. And the week before against Wazoo, you just killed yourself with 16 penalties, which I've never seen before. And in this last game in Piscataway, as Jed said afterwards, things I've never seen before. I mean, multiple 15-yard penalties by your offensive linemen that kill plays. Running back that just tries to cut block outside the tackle box. You just can't do that. A true freshman that is so excited about blocking a field goal before the end of half that runs onto the field that absolutely cripples your team in just an undisciplined way. And I know that there are Arizona fans, and we have one in our building, that will tell you that unfortunately this is some of what you do get with Jed Fish, but I don't. And I'm not going to completely believe that because it certainly wasn't what you saw in his developed culture there at Arizona at the end. But it is what you have seen the last couple weeks. And for the Huskies to beat the big bad foe that's coming in on primetime Saturday night, some of that undisciplined nature and undisciplined football has got to leave the culture and leave the team. So that's what I have learned. Here's what I think. I think the scheme right now has been awesome. Kind of like, again, this is not all Seahawks and Huskies comparison, but we spend so much time on our radio show talking about the Seahawks and their scheme and how much I'm liking and how much everybody is liking what Ryan Grubb's done. And frankly, what he did for the last 2 years at Washington. His scheme has just been on point. Well, I think Jed Fish's offensive scheme and I think Steve Belichick's defensive scheme have absolutely been on point. And it's not even what I think in this way. It's these numbers that help that thought process. Just look at what they're doing offensively. Do you realize how good Denzel Boston's been? Denzel Boston is second in the country with 7 touchdown receptions. The Huskies' top 2 receivers, after losing all of those dudes last year to the NFL in the first, second, and third round, well, all Giles Jackson and Denzel Boston have been his top 20 receivers when it comes to receptions. They have replaced those, and Denzel has really stepped up his game the last couple weeks. Our boy Will Rogers is 4th best in the country in completion percentage. Will Rogers has thrown 10 touchdowns and no interceptions. Will Rogers is 11th in the country in passer rating and efficiency. That offensive scheme has been terrific. And, oh, by the way, number 4 in the country in plays of 10-plus yards. Really wondered I did with Roma Dunze and all of the big threats leaving the building. Would this offense be explosive enough? Could these receivers and these new running backs, Jonah Coleman in particular, could they be explosive enough? Did Will Rogers have enough arm to be explosive enough? And right now, 4th in the country of plays of 10-plus yards in a pro-style system. Super impressive. I said to you last week, I love some of the numbers that I've seen in the situational ball defensively for the Huskies. And that continues, and will have to continue against Michigan, obviously, this week. What they're doing defensively, they're in the top 30 in third down defense, in red zone defense, in red zone touchdown defense, which is going to come into play because Michigan will move the ball. They're too good of a running team not to. They're top 10 in the country in not giving up touchdowns in the red zone, and they're the 6th best team in the country with passing yards against. A bunch of these metrics, a bunch of these numbers, I think their scheme's really good because these numbers tell me so. And then lastly, what I know. What I know is that on paper, this feels like a rematch of the national title game. What I know is that this team coming in Saturday night is a established blue blood power broker in college football in Michigan that has been to the playoff numerous times and ultimately hoisted the trophy last year as national champion, undefeated, beating you down in Houston in the building I was in. I know that this on paper technically is a rematch, but man, it just does not feel that way. Out is Harbaugh, out is DeBoer, out is Penix, out is McCarthy. In are so many new faces, especially at the University of Washington, stylistically, schematically, personnel-wise, so much new. And part of the reason, they're 3-2 and not ranked, and part of the reason Michigan is 10th in the country and the lone loss to one of the best teams in the country in Texas that beat them up there is they are familiar. Their scheme is familiar. I know with Todd Blackledge and Noah Eagle on the call, Michigan is going to run and run and run and run unapologetically. And that's what they do. I know their quarterback, Alex Orji, is not the greatest passer. He's thrown for 132 yards in 2 games. But I know that all he cares about and all that program is built on, and their culture right now after winning a national championship is winning. And that will be their only thought. Last couple things here. I know that the odds makers have this as a 3-point game. That is it. That's all that Michigan is favored because they too look at these metrics. They too look at these next level numbers and see all of the good things that Washington is doing statistically. In fact, ESPN's FPI has the Huskies as favorites in this. 57% chance of winning this game on Saturday night. And frankly, so do I. I think the Huskies are in a great spot. I think they're a dangerous animal. I think they know in watching the tape that they're better than 3-2. And in their minds, they are better than Wazoo and better than Rutgers. And the best way to rid that thought in those 2 losses is exactly the team that's coming into the building Saturday night. Husky Stadium, it's going to be a beautiful day. The sailgating is going to be out. It's going to be a beautiful weekend all the way around. Michigan will travel. Michigan will bring their blue-blooded, old-school, power broker ways into that stadium. And they've been there before, for better or for worse. And they met in Rose Bowls for many, many years. And they just met, as I said, 9 months ago in the national championship game. I know the place is going to be rocking. I know it's going to be electric. I know it's going to be some must-see TV. And I know the Huskies don't even have a good shot of winning this game. To me, they play their game and they just stop the run to any degree. I think they come out of this winners, which would be a big, big step for Jed Fish, for the recruiting, and for the momentum that is going to be needed here in the second half of a very, very difficult season.
How's it going?
Look at you, man. Look at this gear right here. Look at those old schools. That bring it back?
Yeah.
Like 3 quick questions here, buddy. So let's just go right at it, John. So Michigan, 10th in the country, coming back, playing the University of Washington. I just got done rambling and bambling. Does this feel, John, like a rematch to you of the national championship game just 9 months ago?
Not at all. I mean, both teams are so different in terms of, the amount of transfers. I think, 8 for Washington offensively, 5 defensively, and for Michigan, Colston Loveland is the only returning starter on offense. And there's a couple of guys back on defense, but coaching staffs are new. Roster seems to be completely turned over. It doesn't feel like you would think a rematch of a game that happened in January would feel.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think Michigan, if Michigan's going to come out to Seattle, do you feel pretty confident that if they play their game, they're going to find a way to win this one? Or as you've watched these Huskies just kind of beat themselves and give games away, and you look at the numbers and all the tape and everything as you get ready to call this thing, you think if Michigan plays their game, they handle Washington Saturday night?
I'm not confident in anything this year. And it's when you look at this team, if they can run the ball, and honestly, I'll put it this way. If they throw the ball more than 17, 18 times, something's gone wrong. We're playing from behind, and we're not an offense that's built to come back from behind. We did it against USC, but that's because of one special effort by Kalel Mullins. So if we can control the line of scrimmage and run the ball, use Alex Orji in the run game, then I think, yeah, there's a chance. But here's what I don't know, and I'm hoping to glean a little bit from you. What's the environment in the stadium? I hear it's a great college football environment, and it's loud.
So this will be your first trip?
It's my first job. Obviously, I played against the Seahawks, but I never played in Husky Stadium. So it'll be my first opportunity. And here's the thing. The reason I ask, this will be for Michigan's first road game. And you're communicating with a new quarterback, new center, probably going to be playing two centers. Communication is going to be an issue.
You know, it's a great question, John. And actually, the late Paul Allen, and you played in what was then CenturyLink Field, now Lumen Field, and you remember playing there, and the sound went up, and the sound goes down, right? And those cantilevered stands, you know, they're not as striking. You'll walk into Husky Stadium, it's so pronounced. Those stands and the way the cantilever nature of it just, you know, sits there. You don't realize it was CenturyLink because they're kind of rounded, but it's the same thing. Paul Allen sat in Husky Stadium as a kid, and when he designed CenturyLink Field, he's like, I want that same sound to come right back down on the field. Yeah, and if the Huskies play and get ahead and engage and keep them in the game, John, you're going to leave there going, take your headset off sometimes. Just do yourself like, damn, this sounds like what I used to deal with over there at Seahawks Stadium.
Yeah.
It is awesome. Awesome. And a must win, right? I mean, for Jed and the program, obviously you guys lost to Bama, but you're still right there. The playoffs are all right there for Jed Fish, and where he is in year number 1. Man, you circle this. Like, this is the biggest game, period, end of story, for recruiting and the national audience and everything else. Last thing is, you've looked a little bit at the Huskies, and you see all these transfers and all these new pieces. What jumps out to a Michigan man about the Husky team you'll be facing?
Well, two things. One, defensively, the strength is obviously the secondary. So that plays well into what Michigan does well and what they don't excel at. I don't expect Alex Orji to try and test the secondary. I don't think the coaches will expect him to do that. So offensively, I think it's going to be a lot of ground and pound. Defensively now, Will Johnson and, you know, when you look at Jair Hill, who is playing opposite from Will Johnson at the corner position, both of those guys are good. Will Johnson's one of the best in the country. Jair Hill right now is so much better than he was in week 1. He's done a great job of learning what it's like to play on Saturdays. It's a lot different than it is in practice. He's really stepped up his game. Makari Page in the back end. And I bring all that up because when I look at that trio of receivers and I look at Will Rogers and how efficient he is, and there's been a lot of mistakes in a lot of weird ways for Washington, but not many of them are from the quarterback position. And so that really gives me concern about how quickly they can score, how explosive this offense will be. And I think that the task is going to be getting after him up front and testing that offensive line to not allow him time to throw the ball downfield.
Do me 3 things as you come to the Pacific Northwest and you experience Husky Stadium for the first time in the whole entire trip. Do me 3 things. Number 1, get salmon. Wherever you eat, get some salmon because it's still, you know, some good salmon around this time of year. Number 2, get down to field level. Just get out of the press box, go down to field level pregame. So literally you can kind of stand there. And, you know, it's a little bit like the Horseshoe and obviously the Big House. There's special places in the Big Ten that you have been in, but just get down there field level. And then number 3, text me. After Washington beats Michigan Saturday night, text me and let me know what you think the environment was and where it stands next to some of the great places you've been.
I'll do that. And you know what? I'm going to use the finger to text that I wear my national championship ring on from last year. And sometimes it gets a little heavy. So if there's any typos, you know, just please understand. But yes, after that happens, I'll make sure to do that.
Was that the 91 national championship that the Huskies beat Michigan in Pasadena? Was it that 90 or no, you're talking about last year?
Yeah, last year's. Yeah. And I could use that 97 one. It wasn't against the Huskies, but you know, a lot of fingers I could put them on. There's only one I'll use though, and you know which one I'm talking about.
Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you.